Hey guys, so today it is that time once again. I'm going to be sharing the best makeup products of 2021. This year I really wanted to make this video kind of be like an ode to 2021. These are the products that I feel like kind of defined the year for me. Most of these are products that I discovered this year, but some of them are things that I also rediscovered or found a new love for them even if they were in my collection before this year started. I also really didn't want to worry about making sure I had something in every category, so some categories I don't even have a favorite to mention. Some categories I have more than one thing to mention, but these are just the best products of the year and I'm so excited to wrap up this year and share these products with you. I also just filmed my worst of 2021 video, which should already be up, so I will link that for you as well. Fortunately, I have way more products that I loved. This list is much, much longer. And I will also have a part 2 to this where I'll be talking about my favorite skin, body, and hair care products from the year, because I was going to include those in this video, but then I realized that would be way too much to cover in just one video. So this video is just going to be makeup. Let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so starting with the category of foundation, I have 3 favorites to share this year, 3 that I really felt like were my standout favorites of the year. The first one, this is the one that I tried first this year. This one I actually tried, I think, in January, and I do have a full review and wear test on this foundation. This is the Urban Decay Stay Naked Hydromaniac foundation. I have the shade 20 Fair. I really love this foundation. It's quite dewy, but it just looks good on my skin. The one thing that I would say about this is that it doesn't live up to the claims of being super long wearing. It's just not the most long wearing foundation. It will rub off with a mask. You will get dewy, especially if you have oily skin. Those oils will break through this foundation. So I kind of wish they hadn't called this an up to 24-hour wear foundation, because that's just not what it is. But it is a really beautiful light to medium coverage, dewy, hydrating foundation. It always looks good when my skin is dry. I think if you don't like a super dewy foundation, you wouldn't like this one, but this is one of my most used foundations of the year. I think it's fantastic. Another one that is similar to the Urban Decay that I tried more towards like the middle of this year was the Ilia Super Serum Skin Tint SPF 40. I have the shade ST3 Balos. This one is actually very similar to the Urban Decay one. I don't necessarily think you need to have both of these, although they do feel different. Applying them is definitely a different experience because the Ilia one is more of like a liquidy serum, whereas the Urban Decay is more of a cream, like standard foundation texture. But I really like that the Ilia one has SPF 40. I used to not really care if my foundation had SPF in it, and I definitely don't rely on that for my sole sun protection for the day. I always wear a sunscreen underneath, but I've just come to really appreciate having that extra coverage there, the extra sun protection. I feel like it maybe is filling in any gaps that I didn't cover with my regular sunscreen, and it's just giving me a little bit of a boost of sun protection. So I've grown to really appreciate that in a foundation. This is also quite dewy. I would say these two are kind of equally dewy. The Ilia one also has surprisingly good coverage for being a skin tint. I would say it has light but very buildable to medium coverage. I just think it's a lovely foundation. Again, not like the longest wearing. You probably wouldn't like this if you don't like a dewy foundation, but if you do, it is beautiful. The third foundation, I'm more excited about this one even than the other two. Number 1, it is Drugstore, and number 2, I think it even fits my current foundation preferences the most out of these 3. And this is the one that I discovered in the later part of the year. I think it was in maybe October that I discovered this, but it has quickly become my favorite. It is my most worn foundation now, and I can't get enough of it. And it's the ColourPop Pretty Fresh Hyaluronic Hydrating Foundation. This I have in the shade Fair 30N, perfect shade match. I just can't get over how good this is. This came out in 2020, so I am late to the party on this one. Actually, so did the Ilia, so these two are not like new to the market, but I'm actually looking at this. I think I've already used about this much of this foundation. So that's how much I love it. I haven't even had it that long, but I have been wearing it almost every day. Today I am wearing the Oma Beauty Say What foundation. That one didn't quite make it into my year-end favorites. It's very similar to the ColourPop Pretty Fresh, and I think I like the ColourPop Pretty Fresh more. And the reason why is because this foundation, there's something magical about this that does not cling to dry patches. The Oma one, unfortunately, it does sometimes cling to dry patches, and so that's why this one I like even a little bit over that one. This has beautiful medium buildable coverage, a satin skin-like finish, and it has incredibly good staying power as well. Better staying power than these two favorites of mine. So this is just an all-around workhorse. It always makes my skin look amazing no matter what kind of skin day I'm having. Whether my skin is nice and balanced and not too dry, not too oily, or I'm having all kinds of issues and breakouts and dry patches, it always makes my skin look better, which I feel like that is a foundation's job, and very few foundations do that, where I can just rely on it every day no matter what. So I am just so happy with this foundation. As many of you know, if you've been here for a while, for the longest time, my holy grail foundation was the Physicians Formula Healthy Foundation. But when their cruelty-free status became kind of blurry, I decided to no longer purchase from them. And to this day, I never really found a replacement or anything that I liked quite as much as that one. For a while, the Urban Decay Hydromaniac kind of took the place of the Physicians Formula Healthy Foundation, but it just wasn't quite the same. I feel like this is still not the same as the Physicians Formula Foundation, but I love this one as much as I love that one, and I think I might even love it more, especially for the way that my foundation preferences have shifted towards higher coverage and longer wear. It just checks all the boxes for me, and I feel like now that I have this in my life, I don't miss the Physicians Formula one anymore. But if you're wondering how they compare, this one has a little bit better staying power, but it's a little bit more matte than the Physicians Formula. The Physicians Formula one had a little bit more glow to it. So those are the kind of main differences, but this one, it satisfies all of my wants in a foundation. So I'm just so thrilled with this discovery this year. Okay, so next for concealer, my top concealer of the year, I just have one, and it is the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer. I did try this for the first time earlier this year, and it's just a beautiful concealer, especially for the drugstore, but just across the board, not just for the price. It is a good concealer. I have the shade Light Ivory. It's creamy, it's definitely hydrating. It has good coverage, not like the highest coverage you'll ever find, but satisfying coverage for me as someone who does like a higher coverage under eye concealer. So I am just very happy with this. I've already used quite a bit of it. I think I'm like down to here now. And I feel like this makes a really good alternative to the Too Faced Born This Way concealer that I used up earlier this year. That one I really enjoyed as well, but this one is just way more affordable, so I don't miss the Too Faced one now that I've used it up. Okay, so I didn't have any face powders to share this year. I just didn't have any face powders that I felt like stood out to me this year, even though I have some that I like. I didn't really have any top favorites, so let's just move on past that category. Next, for the category of cheek products, I did discover a cream bronzer this year that I absolutely love, and it's the Soul Body Bronzing Balm in the shade Fair. This I discovered only because my friend Alex decluttered this to me. This and one other product that she sent me this year ended up being major favorites. So this is such a nice cream bronzer if you're wanting to try a cream bronzer. This formula, it's fantastic. It's so easy to work with. It's creamy, you get a massive amount of product. This is what I'm wearing today. It's just one of those products that you can't really mess up as long as you have like a shade that works well for you. The shade Fair is a really great tone for my skin. I normally don't love warm tone bronzers, or I'm very picky about my warm tone bronzers, but this shade, even though it's definitely a warm bronzer, I don't mind it. I don't feel like it makes my skin look too orange. It just kind of makes it look like I have a tan, even though I don't. So I love this product. It also smells really good, so I would highly recommend this. You get a ton of product, ton of bang for your buck in there too. Okay, the next product is another one that my friend Alex sent me, and it's the BH Cosmetics Belgian Waffle Palette. This came out of nowhere as well. I don't know why. I had not tried BH Cosmetics up until this year, and this, if we're talking about products that defined the year for me, BH Cosmetics is the brand that defined this year for me. I know they're not super popular on YouTube anymore. I don't know, I feel like they're still pretty relevant. I hadn't tried them yet, and I completely fell in love. This is the palette that started it all for me though, and this is their Belgian Waffle palette, and this is just such a good face palette. There are some downsides to face palettes, like usually there's gonna be like at least one shade that you don't really use. Like for example, I don't really use this maple shade, this kind of medium copper highlighter. I can of course mix it with the bronzers if I wanna create like a glowy bronzer, but if I'm being honest, I don't really use that shade much. But all 5 of the other shades I absolutely love. These highlighters are some of the smoothest highlighters I have ever had the pleasure of putting on my face. They are incredible. They rival like the Becca highlighters. They're so, so good. They're pretty intense. And then I love the bronzers too, especially this lightest one called Buttermilk. I love a light bronzer like that because I just don't have to worry about messing it up on my fair skin. And then I often mix it with these other two to get like a slightly deeper bronzer if I want one. So I love this face palette. If you think you would use all or most of the shades and it would be worth it for you to have, I do think this formula is outstanding. There will be more products from BH Cosmetics in a moment, but I want to go ahead and continue with the cheek products. So there was actually another face palette this year that I loved. So I would say that the standout high-end brand for me this year, if BH Cosmetics was like the drugstore standout for me, Aether Beauty was the high-end brand that kind of didn't necessarily define the year, but that I really got into this year. And I absolutely loved their Amber Cheek Palette. This has 3 beautiful shades in it, a highlighter and 2 blushes. I was really especially into this in like the spring. I love these 2 kind of peachy corally blushes in the spring. They're so just pretty and fresh and like awake looking on my cheeks. They're quite pigmented, so I have to be pretty light-handed with them, but they always look so fresh on me. And then the highlighter is beautiful too. I would say it's really the blushes in here that stand out to me the most, but I use all 3 of the shades and I love that palette. Again, there will be more Aether in the eye category in this video. Another blush favorite, this was a cream blush that I discovered this year, at the same time I discovered the ColourPop foundation actually, and it's the LYS Higher Standard Satin Matte Cream Blush in the shade Kindness. This totally lives up to the hype. This did actually launch this year. I know so many people have been raving about these blushes this year, and for good reason. It's just a great cream blush. This is another product if you're just wanting to try a cream blush for the first time. This kind of similar to the Soul Body Bronzing Balm, just very easy and effortless to apply. No shimmer to it at all. It's a totally matte blush. It just always looks good on my cheeks. I also love that it's in a compact. I feel like I have so many cream blushes that are in like a stick or like a pot, but I love the compact for some reason. That's just my favorite format for a cream blush. So that was a winner this year. A highlighter discovery this year that totally took me by surprise. It's just from kind of a random brand that I think I tried this brand for the first time this year, only because they've sent me a few PR packages, but this is a really good highlighter. This is the Estate Do Me highlighter in the shade Lit. This is a baked highlighter. A few of you guys have told me that you got this in like an Ipsy bag or some kind of subscription box, but this is actually a beautiful highlighter. It doesn't feel dry at all. I feel like baked products can sometimes get a bad rap for being like really dry, but this just feels like any other powder highlighter to me. And it's a beautiful, subtle, smooth highlighter. It's a nice kind of goldeny champagne shade that goes with pretty much any look. I keep touching it. I don't know why. I need to stop touching it. But it gives this beautiful, subtle glow to your skin that just, it's almost like an undetectable glow. You can't really quite tell where the glow is coming from. What I love about this highlighter is that even though it's subtle, it's not like a barely there sort of highlighter. It's more like it makes your cheeks look glowy without anyone really being able to tell that you're wearing highlighter. You know, like they just look glowy, but if you didn't know that you were wearing this, you'd be like, wow, you just have a really beautiful, healthy, soft glow about your skin. So I just think this is a great little hidden gem product. I love that. That was something that I discovered earlier this year. Another highlighter that I did discover later on in the year was the Nabla Skin Glazing highlighter in the shade Privilege. This is gorgeous, totally lives up to the hype. I bought this in the Ulta 21 Days of Beauty sale. It was half off, and I'm really glad that I took advantage of the sale because I love it. It's beautiful. This is kind of similar to the Estate one in that you can't quite, like it doesn't really have like any kind of detectable flecks of shimmer to it, but it just gives your skin this beautiful, soft, kind of glass skin-like glow, which is why it's called the Glass Skin Finish Glow Powder, I guess. I just think that's a perfect description of it because it's just so smooth. You can be as subtle or as intense with it as you want, and I just think it's lovely. I would like to try more shades. I think I want to get the shade Ozone next. I've also heard that the blush and bronzers in this formula are really good, although I feel like they would almost be too glowy. Like, I don't love a super shiny bronzer or blush, so I'm not sure if those would be for me. If you've tried those, are they as glowy as the highlighter? Because if so, I don't know if I would love that. But a lot of people have recommended the blush and highlighter to me. I'm just not sure. I'm kind of on the fence about if I would want to try those. Okay, so I think we are now getting into the eye product category, and one product that has been in my collection for a long time, but I rediscovered it this year, and this is the year that it really became a favorite, and it's the NYX Glitter Primer. I've been talking about this all year long, so I'm sure you know my spiel by now, but this is just such a transformative product because it will take any shimmer and just bring it to the next level. If you just layer this underneath your lid shade, I did that today, especially right now in the holiday season. I'm really just wanting my shimmers to look extra glitzy and reflective, and this just, it's a staple for me now. And if you have any shimmers in your collection that are kind of lackluster or not lackluster and you just want them to look even more foiled and amazing, this is it. The NYX Glitter Primer is a good one, although I've heard it's getting harder to find. They might be discontinuing it. There are so many brands that make glitter primers. I've heard the e.l.f. one is good. I know CRUELTY Cosmetics makes one. Lots of brands make a glitter glue like this, so I'm sure this is not the only good one out there, but this is just the one that I have. I love it. I will probably never use it up because I just use the tiniest dab at a time. I've explained this before, but I do use this in conjunction with a regular eyelid primer, so I'll apply my regular primer first, go in with my mattes, and then before I apply my lid shade, I just tap a little bit of this just on the lid, and it just makes your shimmers pop so much more. So this had to mention this year. So I've got several eyeshadow palettes that I feel like kind of defined this year for me. So as I said before, this was the year that I discovered BH Cosmetics for the first time. So it all started with their Belgian Waffle palette, and then I was like, okay, well now I have to try one of their eyeshadow palettes because I've heard great things about them, and if it's anywhere near as good as the Belgian Waffle palette, I need to try it. So I started with their Summer in Saint-Tropez palette. I was able to snag this on a really good sale. They have since changed the packaging. Pretty sure the formula is still the same, but all the colors are the same and everything. So you can tell I love this palette. I even hit pan on one of the shades this year. I got so much use out of this, especially in the summer. This color story just makes so much sense to me for some reason. It's just so well balanced. It's got a wonderful mix of bold shades, more muted shades. I can get so many different types of looks with this palette. The shimmers are gorgeous, and this was one of my top discoveries of the whole year, I'd have to say. So I love that palette so much that I obviously couldn't stop there, and I later in the year did purchase a couple more palettes from BH, the Lost in Los Angeles and the Mimosa palette. These I feel like I haven't gotten as much use out of yet as I would like to, just because I bought these at the end of summer, and these are both very summery palettes again. I'm not sure why all three of the BH palettes I own are very summery, but they're just very bright and colorful. I can't wait to pull these out in the spring. I think I will feel even more inspired to use them then, but the quality on these BH Cosmetics shadows is phenomenal. I love them. I wish I had tried them so much sooner because this is another thing that I know I'm very late to the party on, but I will be keeping an eye out on BH Cosmetics in the new year. Very curious to see what other palettes they come out with because I love their formulas so much. Their mattes are great, their shimmers are great. So good, so good. Okay, another drugstore palette that I discovered this year. This didn't come out this year. I think it probably came out last year, but I don't really keep up with when things release. But it's the Flower Jungle Lights palette. This just has 6 beautiful foiled, creamy, metallic shadows. I love using this as kind of like a supplemental palette. I like to pair it with really any other palette. Any mattes that I'm using, I can just pop one of these shimmers on the lid and they shine to the stars. Is that even a saying? I don't know. These also make great one and done shadows, so I love this and I'm very glad that I picked it up this year. Okay, so then we have a palette that I've had in my collection for a long time, but this year I completely fell head over heels in love with it, and it's the Anastasia Norvina palette. You guys, I've talked your ears off about this palette this year, but I just love this palette so much. All mattes on the bottom, all shimmers on the top. The shimmers in here are so foiled and gorgeous, and I just love how many different kinds of looks you can get with this. It is a lot more versatile than it might look at first glance. I think this is a great palette for all seasons. There's a reason I have hit pan on 3 shades in here. I think this is the palette that I have the most pan in as of right now. By the way, I did a 1 month 1 palette with Norvina this year, and I also did a 1 month 1 palette with the Summer in Saint-Tropez, so if you want some inspiration for either of these, I will link those videos below. And then I also mentioned Aether Beauty earlier. I do feel like this year I discovered a lot of Aether favorites, but this year, it was really the very end of last year that I got this palette for Christmas actually, but it has been in my collection for a year and it has been one of my favorite palettes all year long. It's the Aether Beauty Rose Quartz palette. This is the old version. They did replace it with a new version. So this one has been discontinued sadly, but I love this palette so much. This is a rosy, cool toned palette that's perfect for fair and light skin tones, I think. The shades just all complement each other so well. They complement my skin tone so well. I just have such an easy time whenever I use this palette. The mattes like blend into my skin. It's almost like the mattes become one with my skin. They're that blendable. The only complaint I have with this is these 4 shimmers in the middle. You definitely have to layer them over a glitter primer, but when you do, they look incredible. So I love this palette so much. And I also discovered this year the Aether Beauty Ametrine quad, which is a great little mini quad of theirs if you are just wanting to try their eyeshadows. I love all 4 of these shades. These you definitely don't have to use over a glitter primer unless you want to. So that is nice. It doesn't have any of those like sheer shades in it. And this is just a great everyday rose gold quad. If I were traveling and I needed just a quick everyday palette to throw in, this is probably what I would pick if I was trying to like pack light. I haven't like actually traveled in a really long time, but if I were, this would probably be my go-to like little travel quad. Okay, another defining, I guess kind of more technique or trend for me this year was eyeliner. I just really got into eyeliner this year, and especially 2 different types of eyeliner, brown eyeliner and colorful liner. And I think the main type of eyeliner that I've really been enjoying this year is pencil eyeliners. I've acquired quite a few new ones, and I've just been loving the ease of application. I love just smudging them out into a nice soft wing like I've got going on today. One favorite of the year has been the CoverGirl Kohl eyeliner pencils. These are a sharpenable pencil. This is the brown one in the shade Rich Brown. That's what I have on my upper lash line today. I've been loving the look of a soft brown liner. I think it's just a little bit less harsh than a stark black liner, and it just goes with so many looks. So it's been a total staple in my routine. I really think it was this year that I started wearing brown liner for the first time, or at least the first time in many years, and I love the look of it. Now, I don't see myself ever not having a brown eyeliner in my collection. Of course, I still also like wearing black liner. I like black liquid liner, black pencil liner if I'm going for a more glam look, but for an everyday look, brown is where it's at. And this was also the year that I discovered the CoverGirl Perfect Point Plus eyeliners. These are a retractable, very fine-tipped eyeliner pencil. And I have 4 shades: Midnight Blue, Espresso, Gray Khaki, and Charcoal, and I love all of these. I would say my most used has been Espresso, the brown, but this is such a great, creamy, and very precise eyeliner, so I love these. These were a total win for me this year. And then the other type of eyeliner, like I said, that I've been loving this whole year is colorful eyeliner. I think it really all started when I started panning my Wet n Wild liquid liner in Voltage Blue, that beautiful bright cobalt blue. I loved it so much that when I finished it, I bought a new one from Makeup Revolution in a very similar color. Then I also got really into colored pencil liners. My 2 favorites of the year are these 2 from Urban Decay. I have the shade Roxy and Overdrive. Roxy I'd had in my collection, I think maybe even since 2020, and I hadn't used it very much, and then I started using it again like later this year, and I love it so much. It's this gorgeous royal blue. Love it so much that I ended up purchasing the shade Overdrive, which is like an evergreen color, or like an emerald green. This I've been wearing so much, especially during the holidays, so I cannot get enough of colorful liners. I want all the colors now. And of course, I know I can also use any eyeshadows that I have as eyeliners, so I probably don't need to buy like every single color of the rainbow, but I have just been having so much fun with eyeliner this year. I think that's just really one of the defining types of products of the year for me. I did not have a favorite mascara this year. I actually had a pretty rough year as far as mascaras go. A lot of the ones I tried I just didn't love. Hopefully 2022 will be a better year for mascaras. Before we get into the lip category, I do want to talk tools very briefly. So this year I discovered BK Beauty brushes, and I love these brushes so much. They are a more expensive brand. Their brushes are just incredibly high quality. I actually also tried Sigma brushes for the first time this year, and I like these so much more than Sigma. I do like my Sigma brushes, but there's just something about the Sigma brushes that they're almost like the bristles are almost too synthetic feeling, if that makes sense. I don't even use natural bristle brushes, but these BK Beauty ones almost feel like natural bristles even though they aren't. Like they just feel so much more, I don't know, like they pick up the product better, they blend the product into the skin better, whereas the Sigma ones are almost too like silky or something. It's very hard to describe, but anyway, I love these so much. I love all of them. I have the entire line and I love every single one. I use them all I use them on a daily basis. And I used to exclusively use drugstore brushes. I still use drugstore brushes quite often, but I do think a nice high quality brush set is worth investing in because it totally just adds so much to your whole makeup routine. Like, these are what you apply your makeup with, so I think that the quality of the brush is very important. And these are also so well made that I feel like they're just gonna last years and years. I would say one of my most used ones is the 106. It's this nice kind of domed, dense, sort of small kabuki brush. I like to use this a lot for cream cheek products, but it would also be great for foundation. Their 101 is also a wonderful brush for foundation. I don't get nearly as much streaking with this brush as I do with other foundation brushes. Their eye brushes are also amazing. My favorite is the 207 for like the outer corner. I can really carve out the outer corner with this, but I really do use all of these. Those are just a few of my favorites. I love these. I think these are going to be a favorite for many years to come for me. Another tool that I discovered this year that I absolutely loved, I don't have one right now, but I will be repurchasing it in the future once I am in need of a new one, but the EcoTools Bio Blender Sponge, that came out earlier this year, I think, and that is, I'm pretty sure, the first biodegradable makeup sponge, which it's about time, you know? I feel like it's about time we had a biodegradable makeup sponge on the market. And it's also just a great sponge. It's nice and soft. I love the shape of the EcoTool sponges. And I think just in the future, whenever I am in need of a new sponge, that's the one that I'll get. So last but not least, we have my lip favorites of the year, and I have a few favorites. The first one is a lip liner. This is the Mented Peach Lip Pencil. I talked about this all year long. I think I did discover this in the earlier part of the year. And I love the formula of this, but I also love the shade. It's this perfect kind of warm peach. This year I really got into peachy lip colors, as you'll see in a minute with my other lip favorites, but this is the perfect peach because it doesn't have too much brown in it. It's just a nice mid-tone peach. It complements so many of my favorite lipsticks, so I would love to pick up more shades. It's also a great formula. Similar to like my favorite Jordana lip liners, they stay on really well, so I love those. Another lip favorite this year are 2 shades of the e.l.f. Seriously Satin lipsticks. So I didn't discover this formula this year because I did try their Seriously Satin lipstick in cream last year, and I do wear that lip color all the time, but this year I found 2 shades that I think I like even more than cream. But the first one is the one I have on right now, and this is the shade Nectar. I have never had a lip color quite like this, and this is just the most perfect medium kind of peachy pumpkin spice kind of lip color. This is another nice mid-toned nude that doesn't have too much brown in it, but it's got like a little bit of a brightness to it. Sometimes medium nudes can look a little bit too brown or too dark on my lips, but this just looks so pretty. I was wearing this a ton in the fall. It's just so pretty. If you like a warm toned nude, check this one out. And then I also got the shade Persimmon this year, and I was loving this in the summer. This is like a true orange lipstick. So much fun. I love orange lipstick. I feel like it's the kind of color that a lot of people don't think to try because they might shy away from it or think that it would look unflattering, but I don't think it looks unflattering at all. I think anyone can pull off an orange of the right undertone. It's almost like a neon orange. It's just so fun. I love both of those. The Seriously Satin lipsticks, the packaging is kind of cheap. Like, the packaging will probably break before you fully finish up the lipstick, but I can look past that because I really enjoy the formula. It's creamy, but it's kind of like a nice, really more matte than satin, but it feels very comfortable, and it's got a good wear time, so I really enjoy those. Those are 2 definite standouts for me this year. A high-end lip favorite of the year was the Urban Decay Vice lipstick, specifically the cream formula, and my top favorite shade is another one similar to the one I have on right now, but this is the shade Liar, kind of similar to Nectar from e.l.f., but it's got a little bit more pink to it. That's Urban Decay Liar, and then right above it is e.l.f. Nectar. This is such a perfect nude for me. I love this paired with the Mented Peach Lip Pencil. If you didn't notice, this year I really got into like warm, peachy toned nudes. I've just been really into that look this year, and this just complements so many looks, and I also love this formula. I feel like it's got better staying power than a lot of just standard bullet cream lipsticks. It kind of hangs onto your lips really well without being drying. It's got a nice kind of cream shine to it. It's not super glossy, but it's got a little bit of a shine, so it just looks healthy on your lips. I think the price is great too for a high-end lipstick. It's $19, so if there's like a sale going on, you could get it for, you know, close to a drugstore price. So I really like those, but especially the shade Liar. And then my lip gloss favorite this year, this is a rediscovery. I've had this in my collection for 2 years, but I do feel like this year, especially within the last few months, I really grew to love and appreciate this so much, and this is the Milani Keep It Full Nourishing Lip Plumper in Soft Rose. This might be a forever repurchase holy grail for me. This is very special to me because it perfectly matches my lip color, so it just looks perfect on my lips. And this is a pretty opaque gloss, so it's not just like a sheer tint of this color, it really does just kind of, it just looks so perfected on the lips. This one smells like mint chocolate chip ice cream. It just smells so good. And the only thing I don't love is sometimes the applicator comes out with way too much product on it. It's one of those kind of chubby applicators, but I can totally look past that. The shade is just perfect. It is a plumping gloss, so it does have a little bit of that kind of cooling, tingly sensation to it, but I don't mind that. I think it's such a beautiful gloss, and specifically the shade Soft Rose is just like my perfect, truly my lips but better color. Like, I've never found a more perfect color for my lips than this. Whew. Okay, so that is everything. That was quite a lot of products. My voice is getting tired. I need to take a break from filming, but those are the products that I really feel like defined 2021. Many of these I discovered this year or rediscovered this year, and just these are the products that I was loving and raving about the most this year. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you're all having a great and restful holiday season, and hopefully I will see you tomorrow in my next video. Bye.